Hi there. Welcome to the pod where spirituality is accessible and exciting.
Do you find yourself drawn to the magical and mystical side of life?
If you're ready to explore and expand your spiritual path,
Then you are in the right place.
I'm Jennafer.
And I'm Lola.
We are
are
modern
modern
mystics.
Sometimes I cannot breathe. I'll be coming out. Wanna look at me like they cannot breathe. I'll be coming out.
Well, welcome. Today we get to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is logic and intuition. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine when people destroy their lives because they had a feeling that this is the path they should follow. And just this much, maybe this much logic would have saved them.
That was a really tiny amount if you're just listening.
Thank you. That's right. Not everyone was watching us on YouTube. Like just the smallest hair width of logic would save them from themselves. So this is kind of near and dear to my heart.
I'm glad. I feel like, we just live in a culture that really values logic, which is totally understandable.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that we need to only be logical, and it also doesn't mean we only need to be spiritual or intuitive, because they can absolutely coexist together without people having too much struggle. In fact, I think they really complement one another.
They do.
And when people are telling you to give up your logic to follow a spiritual path, you might want to consider that a red flag.
I like the biggest red flag of, hey, you should sell all your possessions and give them to this center. That's a cult. Just right there. That's a cult.
It's pretty fair. Yeah.
Run from that.
Yeah. Good call. I love that. Yeah. And I think to be a modern mystic is, to really own the experience that you're having, and to combine logic with your intuition is a really powerful thing to do. And we're going to talk about a lot of different ways we can do that today. But just know modern mystics don't need to forego one for the other, if that makes sense.
No. As we were prepping for this, I was thinking of one of the most profound experiences of my life. I have 3 children, and 2 of them have a neuromuscular disorder called spinal muscular atrophy, and it's a genetic condition. They're missing the SMN1 gene, or the SMN2. I think it's 1. I don't know. I'm not a geneticist. Maybe I should get a degree, and then I can talk about these things.
Don't know enough to even correct you if
Well,
if you were wrong.
geneticists, please correct me. Thank you. Let me know what the correct gene I should be saying is. Anyway, the point is, my daughter was about 6 months old, and my son was about 3.5. And maybe she was 7 or 8 months. She was crawling, sort of. She couldn't really crawl that great, but she had rolled over and was crawling. And I was sitting at the top of the stairs in like a hallway, a landing at the top of the stairs. And he was sitting at the bottom, and he wouldn't crawl up the stairs, and he couldn't walk up the stairs. He would have to like crawl up on his hands and knees to get up the stairs at 3.5. And I was watching him and watching her, and my husband's cousin has SMA. And I knew instantly, oh, they have SMA. I just
this is pre-diagnosis.
No diagnosis.
Got it.
No anything. I hadn't even taken them to a doctor. When Dylan was about 1.5 years, I had wondered. But in that moment, I knew. And so I took him to the doctor, and I'm like, he can't do stairs. We go to the park. 1-year-olds can outpace him. Like he's that slow. And they're like, no, you're just a bad mom. You're making your kids lazy by carrying them up the stairs. You just have to make him do it. You're just over.
Believe that.
I have some doctor stories, people. I've got some doctor stories. And I couldn't let it go, though. So I didn't get a diagnosis until my son was 10 and my daughter was 7.
Oh my goodness.
But I persisted. I didn't stop. So the the world's logic said, please, this is super rare. There's no way your kids have this. You're just borrowing trouble. But my intuition I knew in that moment. So yes, there's a place for logic. Yes, there's a place for intuition. And we sometimes have to forego one over the other in rare circumstances but I wasn't foregoing it. I had evidence. I had the logic of watching my son not learn how to swim, not ride a bike. He can't really climb stairs. He can't run at 10. That's not normal.
No.
So I'm sorry, there was evidence.
Yes.
So, okay. So
So true. I'm so sorry that you got like medically gaslit, which is like a whole other conversation,
Yes.
I'm sure. But I think it's so great, especially because I feel like, I mean, moms have their own intuition for their kiddos
sure.
and stuff. So I feel like I just always felt like my mom had eyes in the back of her head. Like she always knew what we were gonna do, which was like
a little
a
creepy,
little bit
right? Yeah.
nerve-wracking, and also really kept us on our toes. But I think it's so fascinating because even though we value logic and you had it right in front of you, or you had all of these symptoms laid out, that you still didn't get the confirmation that you needed until much later. And I think, aside from the fact that I want to go back in time and slap your doctor, I feel like one of the best things about intuition and logic together is that they really kind of balance each other, right? If we're
For
if
sure.
we're only doing logic, and we're not really listening to our gut, then we're not really in balance, and vice versa, right? If we don't have logic, then and we're just kind of off on intuition or belief, we can drift into things like superstitions, and
Very true.
things like that. But if we're just kind of if we're just trying to logic through things, we might miss nuances that intuition can give us. And
Yeah.
so I feel like they really balance each other out. And I really like that logic is kind of the map, the lay of the land, but our intuition is our compass to kind of navigate the lay of the land.
I love that analogy so much. And as you were talking, I thought of two other layers to this story that I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. One about superstition. So I don't get a diagnosis, right, for years and years and years. Finally get a diagnosis. And spinal muscular atrophy used to be a death sentence. They now have a drugs that is life-saving. And
Wow.
spinal muscular atrophy was one of the number one killer of babies. They would just die
Oh my goodness.
because it affects the muscles. Lungs are muscles, hearts are muscles, everything's a muscle,
Yes.
right? So when I got the diagnosis, I was very emotional. This means my kids
course.
are going to die. This will kill them.
Yes.
I don't know when, but it will kill them. So it was awful. And of course, I let family know. I had been asking people to pray for us and, help us on this journey. We need answers. What is wrong? Something's very wrong. Help me. And so we sent out and let everyone know we got the diagnosis. And I started getting phone calls of, oh, we're so sorry, or I'm glad you got a diagnosis, things like that. I will never forget one phone call. Well, you must really need this challenge. God must have known you guys need to learn this throughout your lives.
Wow.
What?
Now I want to go back and slap two people in your
Thank you. Me
breast.
also. But
Holy
what?
cow.
So this is where intuition turns into superstition. We trust that God led you to this answer, but now it's a punishment. Who has sinned, you or the parent?
Wow.
Right? This
Again,
is yes,
gaslighting.
right.
You're the problem.
Yes.
It's just in a lot of different forms, isn't it?
It just life happens and people have genetic conditions and we
Yes.
don't need to blame their spirituality for
True.
those conditions.
And we don't need to put them on a pedestal for their spirituality either, right?
Correct.
Like, only very special people get trials, or
Or disabled children.
Yes.
That's one of the things. Oh, you must be such a great mom. God only trusts really great moms with disabled kids. Gross. Stop saying that. If anyone said that, stop saying that.
yes,
It's gross.
please, just, it's not helpful, and it's
No.
also just dumb. I just feel like some people are
She said it. She said it, not me. I didn't tell she to stop saying
just
it.
being
But
honest.
thank you. Thank you, Jennifer, for saying that. Every mother that has heard that,
Yes.
thanks you.
I just feel like all you need to do is just be there for people.
Yeah.
You don't need to come up with like magical solutions or magical reasons.
Explanations.
And even if there is a bigger purpose in it, let them figure that out.
Right.
Be there to kind of, listen to them or that kind of thing. You don't have to be the purveyor of wisdom that's really your one-sided wisdom.
Right.
I promise I'm getting off my soapbox now.
I applaud this soapbox personally, so I'm all right with that. I'm going to let that pass. Yeah. Anyway, but we can see how other people's superstitions and belief systems impact how they interact with me about my spirituality. And where are
So
we allowing superstition to impact how we interact with other people's spirituality? You must meditate 4 hours a day, or you must, right? These things that turn into dogma real quick
Yes.
that worked for you doesn't mean they're for anyone else.
That's so true, because I think discernment is one of the ways that logic
Yes.
can really serve and complement and ground spirituality, right? Because, maybe we're looking at the consistency of things, the ethical implications of things,
Yeah.
like you were saying, like if somebody says something and it feels off, whether it's like a spiritual teacher or something you're reading or something you're hearing or something a sort of well-intentioned person is spouting off at you, you can just kind of say, oh, well, that doesn't make sense, or that doesn't ring true for me. And discernment is logic kind of sifting through what's being done and said so that you can find what works for you and what doesn't. And so I really love that about it. I feel like logic really helps you with those red flags and spotting red flags.
Yes.
I'm such a spiritual mutt. I was not raised with any kind of religion, even though I was baptized when I was a baby. It was mostly so the grandparents felt better that I wasn't going to go to hell if I died. And then,
All right then.
So when I was a kid, I was curious about religion. I grew up in a space where I was a non-religious kid, where there was a predominant religion, which is what I am now. That's a really, anyway.
But
in
life
that-
lessons, repeating.
in
I
my
love this.
Yes, I know. I'm like, why do I keep ending up being this spiritual seeker in the middle of predominant religions? Anyway, I grew up in a mostly Jewish community, so I went to like a million bar mitzvahs and stuff like that when I turned 13. But anyway, I was very curious about things. I learned a lot of things. I went and researched a lot of things. In college, I took world religion classes, and I've been in religions and I've not been in religions. And the whole point of that is that sometimes when things, whether it's a religious system or a spiritual tradition or a teacher, if you have to swallow something hook, line, and sinker, that gives me a red flag now. I feel like everybody should be able to question anything that is said to them, or whether they're trying to understand or whether it just doesn't ring true for them. And we should be able to sift through those things, and we should be able to say, this fits, this doesn't fit, that kind of thing. And I think that logic is one of the ways we do that, right? And it's not that you're naive if you're only spiritual, but it is, our lived experience is just as important as the teachings that have been handed down through time. And the way we engage with the world is really valid and a really important thing for us to take into account. Our experience matters, and our logic really comes from a lot of that experience. So we need to make sure that we are paying attention to that, sifting things through that kind of thing.
Having that as a filter, that really is just profound advice. And I want to kind of sideline off of that a point of you can do that to yourself.
True.
You can see where your thinking is a red flag. From my personal experience and my journey, I was born into a major religion, and I was raised in that, and I got married in that, and started raising my children in that. But all along the way, things bothered me. always, especially how women were treated, about how people, minorities were treated, anyone that didn't fit, it really, really grated on me. And, but I had been raised with a lot of shoulds. You should this, you should that. And that's where now I apply logic. When I start shoulding me, I start asking myself questions. So not only can you see the red flags from out there when someone's saying, turn your brain off, just do what I say,
Yes.
you can do that to yourself.
Absolutely. I think the word should is just laden with other people's
It is.
expectations.
It's your biggest clue that your
Yes.
psyche is doing what someone has told you or conditioned you to do.
Yep. I was going to say it's a good indicator of programming. So that
Yes.
makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
And examining it with our logic
Correct.
is a wonderful way to, utilize those things together. Because I think sometimes we have a lot to unpack when it comes to spiritual things, right? Whether it is the experiences we're having, or
Right.
like maybe there are symbols that you see in a dream or during a meditation, and you just
Yes.
go, what the heck is that? And so being able to research or, look up things
Yep.
and go, oh, maybe that's what this symbol means, or maybe this is why that system is working or not working for me, or things like that is really important, because we're always sort of processing things through our senses, but we're also processing things through our intellect and, again, our lived experience.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of the time logic is really great to be able, after you've had a profound experience, a confusing experience, any kind
Yes.
of experience, your logic can help you just sift through that and kind of unpack it a bit, maybe, like store the stuff that you need and, go through things. And maybe you need to do that several times.
Yes.
But I love the idea of just unpacking even just your individual programming, your individual, why do I think that again? Or why do I believe that? Or why am I stressed about that? I think just being able to look at ourselves objectively with our own logic is pretty cool.
Like like really dumb examples, because I think dumb examples are sometimes the most profound because they're common. So we can relate to them easily. Like moving into my first place and wanting all the cans in the pantry to face the outward with the labels so I can see them. It's more efficient. There's logic behind this.
Sure.
This, right?
Sure.
Why? Who cares? Why am I spending my valuable time, my limited resource of time? How long do I get to stay here? Who knows? My time is the only thing that really matters. And I'm going to spend it turning cans around? What? Well, sure, that is a good photo op, but is it a good lived experience?
Oh, that's fascinating. The efficiency part of me that just
Right.
appreciates not wasting my time is like, oh, that's so efficient.
Yeah, right.
But you're going to spend the time turning the cans either in the beginning or when you're looking for them. So one way or the other, you're probably going to be turning the cans.
Or I wouldn't, because my beans go here and it's already organized. Do I
Got it.
really need every label facing the same way?
Oh, that's a good point too. Oh, I love that. So it's making sense of the systems we use too,
Yeah.
like just every day in our lives.
Yeah, and
I like that.
it was the lightning bulb moment I had one day as I'm sitting there putting away groceries that takes me 45 minutes to unpack because it needs to look pretty. Says who? Says who? Right? That thought was my literal
Probably just
thought.
social media at this point.
Yes, but I didn't even have
Anyway,
social
yeah.
media. I'm old.
Oh, dear.
This was pre-social
Got it.
media. This was conditioning.
Ah,
Your home needs to be
is
a
so true.
showplace, right? Like, what if someone opened your pantry and all the labels weren't out, God forbid, and
Yes.
they couldn't find a can of beans?
because that happens so often.
Correct. Who's cooking in my house but me? I would die first. That was the conditioning. No, you serve your guests.
Yeah.
Who's gonna be cooking? No one but me.
So funny.
But that until
Yeah.
that thought entered my head of says who, that was the
Yes.
intuition, and it gave me chills in the moment as I'm sitting there
So true.
annoyed that I have to do this. Says who?
I love that you just questioned yourself that way, because I think a lot of systems of spirituality can get not just unhappy if you question them, but they can get very dogmatic, meaning you're not allowed to question them, right?
Correct.
Because they're like super rigid or toxic or or just difficult. And so I think one of the good things about logic is that it can help us avoid dogma, or it can help us
Yes.
avoid systems where we're not allowed to reach beyond the boundaries, question things, anything like that. And I think that's really helpful when it comes to spirituality.
I agree with that. The notion that we have to agree with things or our faith is lacking is a
Oh,
common spiritual tradition thing of, well, in fact, so I grew up LDS or Mormon, and one of the most common sayings I heard my entire life was, if you and the prophet disagree, you're the one who needs to change.
wow.
So this idea that you're somehow defaulted or broken or wrong if you don't agree with the powers that be, or even with, I've seen this with parents and children, where a child has a different faith system and the parents can't accept that faith system,
Yes.
and the child is somehow broken or wrong, or they have failed as parents, and they mix up all of this gunk in the middle of what should be a beautiful family relationship is
Yes.
now, ew.
It's very fracturing, isn't it? And very
Yes.
dividing. And I
Yes.
think the good thing about spirituality is that it's usually, or it should be, about should, she says,
Should.
using the word should. I think it works best when it facilitates connection instead of division,
Yep.
right? And I mean, I don't know why, if you believe in a deity or the intelligence of the universe or whatever you believe in, then why wouldn't you think it helped us with our critical thinking skills, or it gave us
Right.
our critical thinking skills? So why wouldn't we need to utilize those and reason through things? You know, when we don't reason through things through our critical thinking, we can believe a lot of things. I see that in the media these days, where there's
Wow.
just a whole lot of stuff where people don't reason through it and don't question where it came from or who it came from or that kind of thing. And there can be a whole cult of belief around a particular news story, around a particular culture. It doesn't have to just be spirituality, it can be, just the current events of the day.
Yes, and relying on our intuition. I again, oldie over here. So I don't. I'm trying to even remember how this all started, and so I'm just going to start in the middle of a story. I'm sorry. Hopefully, we'll come back and I can fill you guys in later
All
next
right.
time.
It's exciting. It's kind of like guess the beginning.
I like this. You can put those in the comments. You
Okay.
make up your
Yes.
own beginnings of my stories. I love this idea. This is so fun. Okay.
I love that.
Okay. Uh, but I was having a conversation with my son, and we were talking about people being gullible to things, to social media in general. And he was telling me that QAnon, like, he's online, he's very savvy. He was doing some research on QAnon stuff, and it was started as a hoax, as a joke. It was two kids messing around, and it's developed a massive following
Yes.
that started as humor.
It took on a life of its own.
It took on a life of its own. And my intuition, so I got off Facebook for a long time because I had too many people that believed too many things that were really hard for me to listen to them
Yeah.
espouse. And so I've just recently got back on Facebook, and it's I'm dipping my toes in and trying to be brave. But it is very interesting to watch people ignore their intuition. Well, I had a feeling that couldn't be right. Well, I wasn't sure about that, but because this person said it.
Yep.
See, this is where logic would save you.
I totally agree.
We have these inklings most often, but the truth about our intuition is the less we listen, the less it speaks.
That's very true. You do have to tune into it,
Yeah.
know. And I think one of the good ways that, you can strengthen your intuition through your logic is knowing how things come through your body, right?
Yes.
So if you just got a weird feeling, like you were saying, like people were like, I had a feeling this wasn't really true,
Yeah.
or this was off, or something like that, then notice like where that comes from. Notice that, if it's a weird feeling in your gut, or it gives you like a weird little flutter in your stomach or something
Right.
like that. Just noticing the sensations in your body and being able to like logically say, oh, that's my intuition is a great way to just be able to recognize it better and then recognize what it's trying to tell you because you've already kind of put those two pieces together.
That is perfectly said. So, so good.
Thanks.
And speaking of our bodies, like you have to know your body. You have to know how your body talks to you, what is physical and what is intuition. We have a good friend, Ken is his name, and he always talks about how he's hangry. He really has a problem with hangry, and he doesn't trust what's coming through when he's in hangry.
Yes.
He just ignores that because
He's
that,
like, if I'm ever grumpy, just feed me.
and
And I'm
then,
going to be so
see.
much better. Then we
Then
can
we'll,
talk.
yeah, then we'll see if I'm actually grumpy. We'll see if there's,
Yes.
right? So knowing your own body matters like that.
So true. Because you can absolutely confuse signals in your body for, I don't know, for intuition that are actually probably pain or vice versa or a need. Like I don't know about you, but whenever I'm tired, everything's a bigger deal than if I'm not tired.
Oh my gosh, I cry so easy when I'm tired.
Oh, you
Like
just get overwhelmed.
I just, it's
Yeah.
like I need sleep so bad. Everything makes me cry. So yes.
Yes. I feel like we we second guess ourselves more when we're tired too, right? So we go, I don't know, was I just cranky? Was I just hangry if I'm Ken? Was it
Right.
just, like
Right.
that kind of thing? So I think it's so true that you have to kind of be paying attention to your physical state and then have your logic say, oh, okay, well, I need to eat or I need to rest or I need some hydration or, whatever it is. And then the chemicals in my body can kind of balance out and then I can think better.
Yes. And I think that, knowing, like when my kids were getting married, heightened stress time, all the details. I'm not a detail person. Keeping track of minutia is a stressor for me. It's not my skill. So I know I'm higher stress. So I'm going to check things more carefully that are coming through.
Very smart.
Right. So just know, I've got a huge deadline at work.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to be really careful about what's coming through right now because I'm in a heightened stress state.
That is a really good point. Because I think sometimes if we understand how we react and how we tend to
Right.
behave, then we can kind of use our logic to recognize our own patterns and see how they might be interfering with or enhancing or whatever our judgment.
Right. Yeah. There are times of elevated
Yes.
spirituality and intuition, right? Just
Absolutely.
as much as there are times of lesser. And for me, like, because I'm aware of my body and I'm aware this is a heightened stress time, but this should also be a really beautiful and exciting time. And
Yes.
I don't want the stress to overrun. Then I use my spirituality and I set a time, 30 minutes every day and meditated. And I
Oh,
stuck to that
smart.
schedule to override some of the stress.
I love that because really there are a lot of things we can't manage in our lives, but we can definitely manage our energy a little better,
Right.
and being able to, whether it's planning our time differently or it's planning counterbalances or
Yep.
we're like, I'm just going to be in my head all week. So I need to make sure I'm, taking some time to be in my body. I think that's a great way to just kind of map out our own balance and our own connectedness. I think that's
Yeah.
really important.
And I don't deal with hangry because I carry nuts everywhere I go, right? Because I don't know. So I don't know if I have a hangry problem because I don't experience hangry.
Yes. I
So
understand. You're like, I'm just always prepared. So yeah, that's really fascinating.
if you know how you are, then you can take measures to make your
Yes.
life easier. And we not as much as we value logic in this society, part of valuing logic means we live in our heads, just like you said.
Yes,
So there's a detachment from body.
that's so true. And I think sometimes people think I either need to be logical or
Yeah.
I can be spiritual, but I think there's a lot of integration that can happen.
Yeah. If you want to function in reality, probably integration is a great idea.
Yes, exactly.
This
I
is
love
just a
that.
pro tip over here from
Yeah.
for our wonderful modern mystics out there.
I would say in my experience, there are sort of like a couple different ways to tell the difference between your logic and your intuition.
Okay.
And one is that our inner voice, whether it's our logic or just our, I don't know, curiosity or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
we our thoughts tend to be kind of long and meandering and sometimes a little bit judgmental.
Depends
And
on how much should you've conditioned
yes,
in you, right?
exactly. And I think intuition tends to be kind of brief,
Mm-hmm.
just a feeling that you need to do something or that aha moment when you're
Mm-hmm.
like, my kids, this is what's going on with my kids, things like
Yes.
that. I feel like it's like a lot of people look at intuition and spiritual knowing as like a light bulb moment,
Mm-hmm.
and that works too. But I feel like most of the time it's pretty brief. It's pretty like to the point. Whereas our brain is like, I don't know. Do I need to do that? I just talked to my person the other day. Like that kind of, we just kind of rationalize sometimes, and intuition kind of just comes through really quickly. So I think it's more brief, quiet. It's not very judgmental. I feel like it focuses on what needs to get done or what you need to know instead of all the different ways that you could go or ways you could do it and that kind of thing. So I think there's just some really in the brevity of it and the tone of it, you're just going to find that as you're really listening to your own kind of wisdom, that those two things will definitely differentiate for you. And I'd be interested to see like how you know the difference between your logic and your intuition, because I think everybody figures out a different way. And I also think our intuition is very tied to our learning styles. So if you're, a little more visual, like a visual learner, you might have more visual
Yep.
intuitive moments. If you're like an auditory learner, you might hear more intuition than not. So I think there's a lot of things that it's tied to.
Are you an experiential learner? Do you feel it in your body?
Yes,
Right? Or are you a super feeling
totally.
based person? I know people who think in feeling.
Yes.
That's their everything is about their feelings. One adorable story is we I know someone who has a lot of food like proclivities. Things need to be a certain way, and so we were kind of getting into it and talking about what led them to that, and they are feeling based. So one of the things, they don't like Italian food, quote unquote. And so I was like, that's a lot of food. Like, tell me more about
It
that.
really is.
Well, when they were like, I can't remember, 3 or 5 years old, they went to an Italian restaurant with their family, and their favorite toy was lost.
Oh, so there's an association
The
there.
feeling is negative. So they don't like Italian food.
Got it. Bad memories.
Yep. So the feelings often can even influence our logic.
It's fascinating.
So know that, right? How do you learn? How do
Yeah.
you think? How do you feel? Are you a feeling thinker? Are you a logic thinker? That matters.
Absolutely does.
No, learn all of that about yourself. One of the ways maybe to learn about that is to make a pro con list of I get better information when I do this or I do this.
Yes.
So it's a good way to suss out what is what in you.
Yes. And pro con lists can be very logical because
Yep.
you're going down, you're reasoning through it. But then you can also use your intuition to see like what really like pops out at you or what you'd keep getting drawn to or things like that. That's
Well,
awesome.
and it's a good idea to, like, I love your idea of um, writing down, this was her idea, the pro con list, write down the first impressions and then go back. And I had the thought of, yeah, for me, if I let things sit, again, details are not my friends. So I will write that pro con list and it will be out my head, gone. I've left it. Once I wrote it down, it's out. It's no longer part of me. And I'll go back a day later or even a couple hours later, and it's like someone else wrote that list, and
Oh,
things
yeah.
will definitely pop different for me.
A little bit of perspective and time
Time.
away can give you like fresh eyes.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense, especially because I think so much of how we go through our lives is reacting. And so if we're taking time to pause, if we're taking time to come back to something, revisit it, then we might actually, if we're not in a reactive state, actually make a more informed decision or be able to better listen to our intuition.
That, yes, for me, it's that.
So true.
Yeah, it's definitely that. So,
Awesome.
yeah. Oh, well, I also think I'm trying to figure out how to put this into good words, and maybe I just don't get to put it into good words, and you guys just get to deal with me. Of this, well, I'm going to think about this. I'll come back to it if it comes out the right way. Well, I will. Now you can make up what I was going to say. We have 2 stories coming in the comments.
I love that this is becoming like, guess what Lola meant?
Yes.
I love that. That's awesome.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Here we go. Okay.
That's okay. I love it. I think the good thing about just the perspective and such we were just talking about
Yeah.
is that quieting your mind, it really helps both logic and intuition, because logic gets overridden by our emotions or our stresses or our reactions sometimes as well. So taking some time to be quiet, taking some time like maybe in nature, and maybe for you that's like petting your cat for a while, maybe that's like digging in the garden, maybe it's going for a walk in the park, whatever it is, like just something that there's something about nature. First of all, nature just kind of works on its own timetable and it doesn't really matter what we do. It's just going to do what
True.
it's going to do. So I feel like we kind of sync up with like the slowness of it. But I also just think it gets us out of our heads. A lot of our environment is very heady. And so it's good. And when we're at work, we're thinking and reasoning and doing, so it helps us be able to better just get a little quiet. But, you can also do things like meditate or whether you want to like sit and meditate or like do a moving meditation or, do something meditatively like people write or draw or do art.
One of my favorite classes I did, Jennafer taught, and we did a meditation and we colored and we did art. I loved it. I'm Aries rising, so I
glad.
want to move, but it was
Yes.
amazing. So
I think that's so important too, because
Yeah.
when your elements are engaged, you
Yes.
can receive a little bit better.
yes,
Like I've just noticed that people that are water signs do better when they're like, maybe they get inspiration in the bathtub
often.
or
Often.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Or like you were saying, or like fire signs like to be moving or doing something,
Yep.
because just sitting is very annoying.
It actually causes me physical pain. I'm not kidding. Like as a kid sitting in church,
Oh.
my legs would hurt to
Oh,
be that
no.
still.
Your body was like,
that
can we please
long.
move? Come on.
Yeah,
What is happening? Haven't we
sitting.
been here, done this long enough? Yeah.
I mean, you see me. I don't sit. Like I'm moving the entire time. I can't. It's a problem. But that's an Aries rising. A fire sign rising is a lot of movement. A water sign rising is a lot of feeling. And do you know? I've noticed waters rising sleep in. They have a hard time waking up and coming into this reality from the dream world. So look at your rising sign. What element is there? Earth, fire, air, water, and lean into that. We have a little friend here who has a lot to say. Bear's joining us. Bear. Hi. I don't know if you heard that. We'll see if that picked up on the mic. He's very happy to be in the room with us. So, yeah, I also loved, sorry, away from Bear here. I also loved that you had written about the caveat. I would love you to share that.
Oh yeah. I feel like the biggest thing that's important. Oh, now I've got a cat loving on me. It's very distracting in a good way. I feel like the biggest thing to take away is that reason and logic are not enemies to intuition, and vice versa. Really, it's just two sides of the same coin, and we're meant to use both to navigate this life. And modern mystics are totally in pursuit of their own kind of truth and understanding, and but not to the exclusion of logic.
Right.
And so I think just the fact that they can be really good friends is something to take away from this, and just know that they're both meant to help us be a little compass to navigate our lives.
Well, and you said way back in the beginning that, intuition comes through our bodies. And knowing your body is part of that logic. Getting to know how your intuition speaks to you is part of that logic. Going about your intuition in a logical way
True.
is part of being a modern mystic, that
I
you
agree.
apply your brain to, I need an answer, or I need to calm down because it's wedding time and I'm stressed out. What can I do? I can go for a walk in nature. I
Right.
can, stare at a candle and meditate. There's a ton of things I can do.
Yes.
What do I choose to do that will be most beneficial to this body that I live in?
I love that.
So, okay. Well,
Well, that was pretty fun.
it was pretty fun.
I'm really excited to see, what how logic and intuition work for you, or maybe your challenges with them. Just, drop us a line or
Yeah.
comment on social media or whatever, and let us know, cuz we love having conversations about these things and hearing your experiences on top of ours.
Yeah. If there's some place you're stuck too.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. And we don't know all the answers for sure, but hopefully someone in the community will maybe also have an answer for you. So
Yes.
engage, right? We would love you guys to engage with each other.
Absolutely. And, feel free to, just practice a little bit this week, combining your logic and your intuition, or even just noticing what you're using most or what you use most in particular situations. I know people that sometimes feel like they're using their logic more at work and their intuition more at home, or, a combination thereof. So, just practice and notice and see what comes up.
And then tell us. We'd love to know about that
Absolutely.
too. Okay. Thanks so much.
Thanks.